So the first one here is last week. Dan sent me a painful blog watching Lex Fridman and a guest on his show talk about essentially talk constantly for about 45 minutes about Hive, but of course they don't know that Hive exists. So they're talking about these concepts and everything for Web3, and there you go. They never mentioned the Hive name during the whole interview, and they really are describing what Hive is. So we've got to reach out to these guys and find out if we can get in touch with them and let them know what Hive is.
Huge impact.
Yeah, it was funny. Someone when I saw the link, someone framed it as Lex Fridman talks about Hive, and I didn't even check the date. I just jumped in, and there was a timestamp, and I'm listening, and they're talking about all this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, like they're talking about Hive, like that's exactly what Hive is, and I'm waiting for the name drop, and they describe Hive like not perfectly, but like generally what Hive can do. If anything, they under-described it. Like, if they actually knew all of what Hive can do, it'd probably blow their minds. But just the very basics of what they want, Hive knocked out of the park. So I'm like, man, this Lex guy really knows about Hive. Like, he did his homework. And then he never mentioned Hive, and I was confused, and I went back and listened to it. I was like, oh, okay, I misinterpreted. He didn't mention Hive. He just describes Hive and doesn't understand that it doesn't exist. So I thought that was... And you're hearing this more and more and more, right? Like, people keep on... they'll describe something. They're like, man, we need something with a decentralized account system and distributed nodes and all of this stuff. And you're like, yeah, we have that with Hive. It's like, if there was a way for the community to distribute the token themselves, and it's like, yeah, we have that. It's like, and if there was a way to do things without centralized funding, we would really be in a good place. I was like, yeah, we're doing that too. Good. And
it's so good.
Yeah, so.
We got to get the word out to these guys. Like, it's frustrating. We're like right around the edges there. For example, if you watch Timcast, I know that Tim knows about Steam. The other guys around him there were on Hive to some extent, and then we had the guy running for Senate. What's his name? Great guy. Oh, I forget his name now.
Oh yeah, Jews. I'm bad with names, but.
Yeah. Anyway, we've got a potential senator that got invited on the show, and he knows about Hive very, very well. And he also, I mean, he's got to be careful what he says, and he's obviously new to the show, so he doesn't want to push things too quickly. But he also didn't mention it, so we're on the tip of everyone's tongue, and we're almost there. I'm sure it'll come out at some point.
Mm-hmm.
What do you reckon, Task? Do you reckon there's anywhere where do you reckon first is gonna start talking about Hive independently from Hive?
Well, I don't really concern myself too much with that because I still think we have some infrastructure and some major fundamental pieces that we need to get in place. So waiting another 6 to 9 months doesn't bother me. The fact that the discussion is out there makes it even that much better because the discussion is just going to keep building, and then all of a sudden one day we'll just pop up and say, we have all the pieces in place. Here it is. Good to go. And then I think, we're looking at a massive explosion at that point.
Yeah, that's a good point. I actually really appreciate that maturity where you sort of, you're not rushing at it. Dan and I are like two children chomping at the bit to try and get Hive to go viral. But actually, there is still something to be said for taking our time a little bit. That's always good, and going under the radar, which I think we've been very fortunate to have over the last 4 years, where we've had this difficult bear market, but it's managed to keep us under the radar and fix a lot of the issues and scale, get everything ready, have shit tons of apps built and operating. So there is a silver lining to that for sure.
Well, I think what we have, the two big issues, which one of them you're addressing with Speak Network, which I think is an important cog in this machine, is the fact that we need the ability to quickly, easily, and inexpensively spin up new tokens and new NFTs. But then the other thing I think we really need to focus upon, because I think it's a major gem, is the high-back dollar. Because we know the regulators are circling around on, Circle and Tether and all of that. And I really think we have something major there because it's and I'm going to be writing a post about this this week, it's a very interesting dynamic between Hive and HBD and the relationship there and how one can push the other. So I think that's another thing we need, and we've discussed in different posts, and Block Trades has commented, Smooth's commented on, where we should be looking in that direction. So I think we get those two things in place with a couple other apps that we've heard are coming down the line. Dan talked about Project X, which is his game, which I don't know if it is, but I mean, it sounds like he's building Fortnite on Hive or something. I'm just speculating here.
He's going to touch on that a little bit later on as well.
So I think we get some pieces in place. Yes, I'm like you, Matt. I've been at this 4 years, not quite 5. So I can wait another 9 months where we have a package that we can present that says, okay, guys, forget trying to get to the top 150. We're going after the top 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's really good. The longer it goes, the more the tokens distributed, the more we can scale, the more we can become more regulatory proof. We can, game theory that's better, keep getting it better and better. But we are at a place where get the off-chain storage solution, guest account. It's great because I feel like we've gotten that foundation, and now it's like, okay, how do we prepare for the masses in terms of onboarding? Where do we hold all this data? How can we remove some of the bloat from the chain? And then from there you can tweak. One of the great, I'll get into that later. It's one of the block trades that just hit me, but tweaking the resource credit system. Once you have something like an off-chain solution for storage, now you can really be precise with this chain and get operations where they need to be, so people aren't just posting LOL cat emoji to the chain immutably. We don't need things like that. That's where I think once we have that clear line of people understand what goes on chain, what doesn't, and it's a seamless experience regardless, that's when the floodgates can really, really open. But yeah, I'm with Task. I think another 9 months or whatever it takes. I really don't see somebody competing with Hive simply because you can't do it with money. We're not a VC class. We're like a rugged Web3 freedom-loving class that kind of came from all over. So it's a really crazy dynamic when you come to think about how Hive came to be and how hard that is to replicate. So regulatory is coming. And we have a way to have your investment with Hive. You can go to whatever, and then you have your stability with HBD, whatever that's pegged to. So you have both, and that's very awesome. No one else can say that. There's not really a truly decentralized stablecoin out there. You heard someone like Cardano, not Cardano, the CEO or creator of Cardano, Charles Hopkins, talking about when to create an algo stablecoin similar to BitShares. Didn't say Hive for some reason. But that's like the closest I've heard, and that's just like an idea. But the rest are collateral backed, centralized, controlled, married to the dollar, etc.
Well, one other thing that I think we need to add is, for masses, we need two things: security, which we're getting a little more with the hash that Arcane is putting together. And the other thing is ease of use, and we still need to streamline and make the process from beginning to utility a lot easier, because onboarding and keys and all that is still a real nightmare for people.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. Just a quick mention about the hash. It seems very apparent to me now that it may be something that's beyond Hive. This may spread to like all sorts of different apps where people are logging in with just a QR code, no passwords required anymore. This is going to be insane.
Yeah, most users are never going to touch their keys. That's the reality of the fact. I know most people think that's a sin. Yeah. That's a prediction. I'll put down 95% of humans will never ever own their keys. They'll always use some centralized third party. We have to decentralize the third parties. That's what the incentive system's for. Right. But yeah, we'll get to a point where we can have that log in with a QR code. Don't even touch your keys. Don't need to interact with all the apps. That's where we're heading. Exactly. For sure. Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
If I could just throw out one quick question. Do you think that will make the Hive account in this idea of Hive account, own your account idea even more powerful?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's because regardless, even the third parties are going to have these separate accounts that they control and give custodial. And since it's going to be free market, they're basically going to have a way to own your keys without ever having to see them. We don't see your keys. We don't have control of your keys. You have control of them, but you never need to know where they are. Sort of like a ledger type aspect, but in all parts of crypto, to where a person's like, what are you showing me a key for? I don't need to know that shit. It's like a serial code on a table you buy. You're not looking at the serial code tag. You don't give a shit about it. You just want to use the table. That's what needs to happen, and it will happen because free market will always support the narrative.
Yeah, I like that. I like that analogy. It's like instead of where you got a Trezor wallet that manages your keys and you never see them. This is a social media management system for your keys. In the same way that Trezor works, you never see your keys.
Yeah, Trezor doesn't see your keys, and so.
I think it's bigger than that because I think he's positioning it like log in with Hive, where it could actually be a replacement for your Twitter or Facebook account.
For sure, for sure.